Well, I don't know what happened there. Um, I'm live this morning, believe it or not. Yes, it is a parking lot Tuesday, but it's only one parking lot because Constance and I, from now until December, I think December 2nd, are taking part and encouraging others to take part in sort of a general strike. We're shopping at the co-op this morning. Constance is in there already. Wow. For some reason, I'm having trouble with my connection this morning. Maybe it's a conspiracy. But we're at the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op. It is a co-op, locally owned, operated, and in a sense, we're members, okay, because it supports local farmers in the area, and it is not a big corporate thing. But during this time period, we are trying as best we can not to buy things that would support big corporate institutions. In a way, a general strike like this is to send a message of at least token economic impact when we're unhappy with the way the things are being things are happening in the country. So it's not much we can do, but at the moment it is something we can do. So Constance and I are taking part, but we do need to get some fresh vegetables from local people here to sort of get us through that time period as we hunker in until December 2nd and not buying a bunch of shit. Now, I'm going to turn the camera around, see if I get cut off again. Let's see. I know I'm there now. Anyway, so I'm in the parking lot. Constance is shopping at the Natural Foods Co-op. And I'm getting ready to talk to you about Israel Regardie. Now, let's see. I'm fixing my thing there. Now, last Monday, not yesterday, but a week back on the 17th, was Regardie's birthday. Now, he's long dead. I think he died in 1985. But he's a very important character. And if you're watching our little things every morning, you know, he's probably kind of an important character in your magical studies in life too. And I thought I would say a few words about him because I was, after he died, I was privileged to write the introductions or the forewords to a couple of classic Regardie books that were a big influence on my life when I started to study Crowley and hermetic things. Here's just like a Wikipedia thing about Regardie. He was born Francis Israel Regudi, Regudy, in 1907. An English and American occultist, ceremonial magician, and writer who spent much of his life in the United States. He wrote 15 books on the subject of occultism. Born to a working-class Orthodox Jewish family on the East End of London, he was an East Ender. Regardie and his family soon moved to Washington, D.C. in the United States. Regardie rejected Orthodox Judaism during his teenage years and took an interest in theosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jewish mysticism. It was through his interest in yoga that he encountered the writings of occultist Aleister Crowley. Contacting Crowley, he was invited to serve as the occultist's secretary, necessitating a move to Paris in 1928. He followed Crowley to England before their association ended. Living in England, he wrote 2 books on the Cabala, A Garden of Pomegranates and The Tree of Life. Both of those blew my mind, okay, in my early years, even before I joined the OTO. Okay, I liked Regardie. He seemed sane, and I wasn't sure about everyone else I was reading at the time. Okay, in 1934, he then joined the Stella Matutina, a ceremonial magic order descended from the defunct Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. But he grew dissatisfied with its leadership and left. He also studied psychology, being particularly influenced by the ideas from Jungian psychology, and explored Christian mysticism. Okay, that's a pretty white bread little biography. His relationship with Crowley was far more interesting, and including an alleged or a possible or a rumored liaison with Crowley's wife at the time. I really don't think he denied it to us anyway. Here's a foreword that I wrote to the Garden of Pomegranates, and the Israel Regardie Foundation published this. The New Falcon Publications published this a few years ago. Let's see, when was it? 2019. And asked me to write the introduction to it. Now, I'm sure I've shared it with you before, and it might even be included in my book, Allow Me to Introduce. So if you've heard it before, you're getting ready to hear it again. It's only a couple pages. And hopefully by the time I'm through reading it, Constance will be out of the market here, and maybe we'll say a few words of wisdom, because we had a great class last night on the rite of Jupiter. Okay. And anyway, introduction. Cabala will never give us, this is the epigram, I'm quoting myself as Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. Cabala will never give us an aha, that's what that means, moment. Cabala only serves to get the small wheels of consciousness turning smoothly until the big wheel of consciousness becomes transcendently self-evident. Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. I'm going to begin my words of introduction by sharing a little story from my own life. My father was a Freemason. He was raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason in 1948, the same year I was born. That same year, he joined the Scottish Rite and eventually received his 32nd degree and became a sublime prince of the royal secret. He's very proud of all 32 of his degree titles, which he often recited from memory. but he always dramatically deepened his voice when he pronounced the words, "Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret." And I was so happy he couldn't tell it to Mom. Okay. I didn't care what the secret was. It's just important that Mom didn't know. Okay. What's the royal secret? Dad wouldn't tell me. His only answer was I would discover it myself. I wouldn't exactly say my father was a mystic or a magician or a Kabbalist, but he was a free thinker and an insatiable reader. He collected and maintained a small but respectable Masonic library and always encouraged me to browse it and read anything and everything that interested me. It was in one of his books, Morals and Dogma, by Albert Pike, that I found a clue to the secret. Strangely enough, it would also set the course of my entire adult life. I confess I was initially attracted to this large and heavy old Masonic book because of all the pictures. There's not many of them, but there's a few, okay? Alchemical pictures and astrology pictures and cool stuff, okay? And all the spooky symbols and mystical illustrations. When I tried to actually read parts of the book, however, I knew I was out of my grammar school depth. What I could understand was enough to open a door to the past, to a strange history of human thought, ancient gods and civilizations, exotic cultures and religions, bizarre mystery schools, and magical practices. I also kept stumbling upon references to something called the Cabala, and in Morals and Dogma, Pike uses the spelling Kabballah, okay, and the works of the Hermetic philosophers. In fact, there were so many references to Cabala within the text that they took 2 full pages in the index that were linked to 65 pages of reference to this mystical science. One reference in particular would ignite my quest for the royal secret and eventually set the trajectory of my entire life's work. And this is Albert Pike speaking, okay, in Morals and Dogma. He who desires to attain understanding of the great word and the possession of the great secret ought carefully to read the Hermetic philosophers and must take for the key of their allegories the single dogma of Hermes contained in his emerald tablet and follow the order indicated in the Kabbalistic alphabet of tarot. My entire adult life has been an exploration of the great works of the Hermetic philosophers, the Cabala, and the tarot. Ironically, within Masonry itself, there's little official literature dealing directly with the esoteric or magical aspects of Cabala or tarot. Well, there is if you do a little digging, okay? With the exception of sublime hints scattered within the degree ceremonies of the Scottish Rite and his book, Morals and Dogma, Brother Pike pretty much leaves everyone to their own self-education. I'm sad to report that very few Masons today share my passion, but enough do, okay? Part of my self-education began with the works of Israel Regardie and his Garden of Pomegranates. It's one of the finest introductions to the study of modern Hermetic Cabala, and I recommend it. 40 years ago now 50 years ago, I visited Regardie in his home. Constance and I visited him in his home. We were accompanied by Grady McMurtry. We visited his home in Studio City just a few months after I had read Garden of the Pomegranates. I was Regardie starstruck, and my brain was saturated with his writings, having recently digested at least parts of the Golden Dawn and his, it's a small booklet called My Rosicrucian Adventure, and I'd read The Middle Pillar. We shared champagne cocktails. It was 10 in the morning. He popped just a very inexpensive bottle of champagne and a sugar cube, and he dripped a little bit of bitters on the cube and poured the champagne, and we got nice and mellow. But I digress. I soon discovered that we both, as young men, had been members of the Order of Demolay, a boys' Masonic body. We giggled as we awkwardly exchanged the Demolay secret grip sign and word of a Demolay initiate. It was a wonderful icebreaker. Now, you think at the time, in Demolay and later in Masonry, you think at the time it's corny and an exaggeration when you're told you're forming a friendship and a brotherhood that will last until you're an adult and an old man. Okay, Masonry you'll be welcome in every country you travel to. There will be Masons too. You know, it's freaking true. Okay. It is if you make it that way. Anyway, I digress. Naturally, I wanted to talk to Regardie's experiences as Aleister Crowley's secretary in the 1920s, and I had to ask the obligatory questions about goat sacrifices and baby eating. I also said, and there's one other thing I want to ask, and he says, no, the old man never buggered me. He just knew I was going to ask that. Okay. No, the old man never buggered me. Okay. I also attempted a few neophyte questions about Cabala. However, what impressed me the most about the man was simply his personality and character. He was charming, but not affected, knowledgeable, but not arrogant in his mastery of the subjects, witty, but not cynical or sarcastic. Never before had I met anyone who seemed so comfortable in his own skin. If this is what self-mastery looks like, if this is what happens to a person after a life of magical study and practice, I thought, that's what I want. Cabala isn't a religion or a belief system, but a process of systematically waking up to self-realization by actually tricking our consciousness into expanding. It does this by means of reorganizing our perception of absolutely everything we observe and every thought we think. Kabbalistic thought allows us to expand our consciousness to be a more accurate reflection of the supreme singularity of consciousness. Call it God, or the great architect of the universe, or just plain the big whatever it is. As above, so below. The oldest textbook of Cabala is the Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Creation, or more accurately, the Book of Formation. Nobody really knows who originally wrote it or when, but it predates all other works of its kinds, and it starts off by telling us, Yah, the Lord of hosts, formed and created the universe in 32 mysterious paths of wisdom. Then it goes on to say that these paths consist of a decade, or 10, not 10 years, a decade out of nothing, and 22 fundamental letters. So there's your 32 right there. The decade out of nothing is described as a tree of life. 10 fundamental emanations from which number 1, Godhead, somehow emanated out of pre-existent nothingness. Or pre-non-existent nothingness. To our everyday consciousness, this process may look like creation, but from the point of view of Godhead, it's like being knocked on the head and drugged and falling asleep and experiencing 10 levels of deeper and deeper hallucinatory dreams. Number 1 is the ultimate wake-up reality. That's who we really are. 2 and 3 are other numbers in the tree of life, represent a progressive descent of consciousness. It's a cosmic Russian doll of consciousness. Godhead dreaming dreams within dreams within dreams within dreams within dreams. Okay. Until finally, at number 10, we come to your sleepy little head, as above, so below. Kabbalistic studies, exercises, and meditations help us to identify, dissect, and understand each level of the Supreme Consciousness, so that we may systematically awaken from each level of the great dream. The 22 letters connect the tree's emanations, and like 22 little electrical transformers, each path serves to step up or step down the consciousness frequencies or the levels of awakeness of one emanation to another. So it steps down the level of consciousness like an electric train transformer. Steps down as we go down the tree and turns up the juice, steps up the consciousness going up. And that going up and going down is happening simultaneously. It's an alternating current. Okay. But I digress. These 22 paths are the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Kabbalistic quote, the Kabbalistic alphabet of tarot that Brother Pike was referring to. Kabbalists strive to connect everything in the universe with everything else in the universe. We train ourselves by viewing every thought, every concept, every object as a reflection of every object, thought, and concept. Kabbalists continue with this perpetual background meditation until the infinite unity of all existence becomes profoundly self-evident. The Kabbalist consciousness is finally realized as the perfect reflection of the divine supreme consciousness, as above, so below. And that was my introduction to one of my first magical heroes, Israel Regardie. Now, I said one of my first magical heroes is, I was into Crowley, okay? But I'd heard so many bad things, weird things, disturbing things about Crowley, that even though I admired and was inspired by a lot of his works, I still had this waxy buildup of that came from my upbringing as a Christian, I guess. And so Regardie became my first real hero, because he was sane. And his comments and his relationship with Crowley led me to believe that a man of superior character, such as I determined Regardie was, would have that respect and appreciation for the works of Aleister Crowley in sort of a balanced way. Now, Crowley and Regardie had a bitter breakup, and Crowley could be just small and nasty and vindictive, and his breakup, I guess, with Regardie was not a pleasant one. And it took many years for Regardie, even though he respected and admired, Crowley's intellect and everything. It took him a long time for him to see the big picture of Crowley. And when he did, he graciously wrote, up until then, the definitive biographical examination of Crowley's life, called The Eye in the Triangle. Now, before great biographies like Richard Kaczynski's Perdurabo, which, if you haven't read that, you really haven't read a good Crowley biography. Until other biographies, that Eye in the Triangle said, well, wait a minute. You mean he really didn't eat babies? So I have great respect for Regardie. Someone is doing a biography of Grady, a friend of our Regardie, a friend of ours, and he asked Constance to do a portrait, a painting of Regardie, one of our favorites, where he's a younger man with the round glasses. But anyway, I was hoping Constance would finish up her shopping in time for us to stop here. I don't know what happened at first there. My little telephone crapped out on me just literally seconds into my first attempt to join you this morning. But so I hope it didn't actually wind up on my page to confuse you. But anyway, that's it. And remember, if you possibly can, if you're in the United States anyway, if there's any way that you can put off or postpone buying something from a big outlet, or from a now, I want you to buy my books, okay? But until December 2nd, buy my books at your locally owned bookstore, okay? If you can't do that and have to order something online, go to my publisher directly, okay? And not get Amazon involved or anything big like that. And you may think we're being silly and naive and everything else, but we've been silly and naive our entire life, and we're used to doing what we can when we can. And things are pretty serious here in the United States, at least how we are perceiving it. And we all need to do something before it gets much, much worse. So until tomorrow, when we'll be home eating out of our pantry, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.